This is the Engage HR podcast, of course, brought to you by Engagedly, a progressive management and people enablement platform. What we discuss on this podcast is everything from performance and engagement to Aaron Adams making some of the worst dad jokes of all time. I am your host, William Miller, but this podcast is kind of with an amazing kind of cast of people today. We'd like you to meet Jordan, Lotta, and Anant from the Altisource team. What we're going to do is just kind of like a roundtable introduction of a little bit about yourself, what your current role is, and then a fun fact, and the fun fact is going to be, what is your spirit animal? So we'll start with Jordan.
I'm Jordan Enoch. I am at Altisource here for 3 years now, and I am our senior manager of people systems and analytics. Actually went to NYU for my undergrad, got my MBA from Emory, and so was doing a lot more entrepreneurial startup work towards the beginning of my career. Some had some success, some didn't. Really enjoyed that work, but towards the end of my time during that, I wanted something a little more stable. But wanted also to find something that would allow me to be innovative and use my entrepreneurial spirit, and ended up finding that the leadership at Altisource was really interested in taking HR to that next level, trying to find ways to make it more innovative and try to really transform. And so that's what led me to Altisource. So at this point, I'm running 3 teams. So one of our teams is the people systems team, really globally looking at all of our various systems and managing those throughout the organization. We have our people analytics team, and that's going to be the team that's really focused on trying to give our leadership trends, giving them insights, and then eventually doing predictive analytics. And then lastly, I've got a team that really focuses on process optimization and project management, and helping us to really take all of these projects, especially on our system side, and bring them to fruition.
Spirit animal, the most important part.
Oh, spirit animal. Sorry, I totally forgot about that. I was trying to skip it. So, as this question obviously came up yesterday, I started thinking about it and kind of decided maybe owl made sense, but then I wanted to kind of do a survey online and see what they said online, which would be my spirit animal. I went through that process, and it actually matched with an owl. And so it actually worked out very well. I think that it kind of came to that conclusion with a mixture of knowledge, as well as kind of being able to fly and see that in a high level view and understanding of kind of the strategic high view. So I thought that made sense, and I figured Lotta would be happy that I actually put some thought into this.
Very job specific.
I'm extremely pleased.
Yeah, how about you, Lotta? A little bit about you, and then of course the spirit animal.
I'll start with spirit animal.
Okay.
So my spirit animal is a hippopotamus. And it's because I fell in love with them when I was on safari in Kenya, and I visited Masai Mara, so to see them in their natural habitat. And they are the only animal that cohabitates with alligators. Well, no, crocodiles, sorry. And crocodiles don't mess with them, but they're also beautiful and versatile. And then a little about myself. So I love to travel. Just fun fact, another fun fact. But my background is historically financial services, and I worked for Vanguard, then went to Emory for my MBA. So Jordan and I have that in common. We weren't there at the same time, but we're both alum.
Exactly.
And then did consulting with PwC for a few years, and actually lived in South Africa for a little while, working with a nonprofit there. And then when I returned to the US, I wanted to, work somewhere that, to Jordan's point, was a bit more entrepreneurial, a bit more non-traditional, and where I could really have an impact and do project work. So I joined Altisource, and I am a strategic partner here. So I am in human resources, which we call people solutions, and I liaise with the business. So I work very closely with people solutions and human resources, really solving some of our most critical business issues.
And then lastly, Anant. I'm interested to see. Didn't know about the spirit animal, but now let's see what it is.
I have no clue about what is a spirit animal. So I was quickly doing this Google, and then I saw, and it was a butterfly. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to, take that as a butterfly. I'm like, no, butterfly.
But I like the butterfly. I mean, you're transformational, right? You can kind of.
That's correct. So I was thinking, how I'm going to relate this butterfly? No, I was expecting something like a tiger or lion, honestly. Oh no, it's not an animal, it's an insect to me. So I'm going to switch to other thing. So in August, I'm going to complete my third year in Altisource. So I'm taking care of the people systems in Altisource. I'm always passionate about the system since 1994 when I was in class, 4 or 5. So my father had an opportunity to set up a cafeteria in then called Dun and Broad Street Satyam Software. That was the first time I got introduced to, introduced to the computers and all. So the very first time when I saw this, black color Dell PCs that time, so that's when I started looking into the computer. I always wanted to touch it, so that something new happened to my. So I know that since then I know that I'm going to work something which is related to systems, a computer, and I got married at the age of 21. So it is in 2007. So I couldn't, pursue my career in computers. So I had to, for a pay, I had to actually get into a job of BPO jobs. But since I was always, hunting for opportunities, I got exposure to a system called People System, PeopleSoft. That's when I again landed up to the computers world again. Oh, like I'm like, wow, I got it. So that's my journey here. I'm like, now I have implemented close to 10 systems. Apart from that, when I was working in my previous startup, so we were doing mobile applications, like, we were doing this DIY applications. We had this jokes applications, all junk application, honestly, which was like a cash cow to the startup. So we were doing good, but initially we were looking out for funding, but it did not work. So we are forced to leave the company. And then I landed up to Altisource.
All right, we got the gang is together. Anant was mentioning about, being in software, being in these people systems. You talked about PeopleSoft. What kind of digital transformations are you currently working through today?
So I would say our main goals right now are to be able to allow for self-service in as many of the platforms as we can. We just launched Manager Self-Service in our Oracle platform. So that's, been really great, giving the ability for supervisors to go in and make, minor changes on their employees, whether it's changing manager, department, location, stuff that they used to have to sit there, fill out an Excel form, send it to a team. That team had to then go email different approvers, get the approval back offline, then go make the change in the system. Now the manager kicks it off. It goes to the approvers. Once the approvers are in the system, it goes to the approvers. Once they're done, everything is now fully approved, and the system gets updated. So that's, definitely a big change. And we're trying to do that in as many systems as we can. The other piece is really trying to connect all of our systems together. So, some integrations that maybe weren't there before, so that, the other teams that are within our HR department don't necessarily have to focus so much on some of the manual kind of daily grind task, and they can kind of elevate what they're working on to a higher level, working and trying to make our workforce better, trying to train them better, and not necessarily just doing the daily transactions like they've had to be doing recently. And then I think the last piece, and I'll let Anand kind of talk more about this because it's been one of his pet projects, but that's about, just kind of where can we bring AI into the equation, and where does it make sense to start investing in that area right now versus waiting for that to develop a little more. So
Free them up the time so they can be more strategic, make people like Delon and herself jobs easier, right?
Exactly.
We have moved most of our databases and other things to AWS from an on-prem. Most of the systems, when I even joined, the HR system was in MS Dynamics. Now we have moved to Oracle HCM. So we are moving into a cloud world rather than the on-prem world. We are working on a project called Ask HR Chatbot, which is we have shortlisted, and we are now in the payment processing, the agreement stage. So soon to be implemented in Altisource, all our employee queries would be handled by the artificially intelligence powered chatbot.
Delana, what do you see the biggest challenges from your perspective with some of these transformations?
Disparate information. So having so many different systems that we're pulling data from, and whether they feed to one another and if they're interacting appropriately. The businesses are able to use Jordan's team to really filter that information and filter that data to ensure that we're pulling exactly what we need. You have companies joining other companies, and their systems were never meant to interact or to work together cohesively. So it's like oftentimes people talk about synergies, and those synergies aren't really realized because they can't be. So then you have these larger projects like the Oracle transformations, and then transitioning from one talent acquisition program to another that really works with your larger database. Part of my job is to understand, well, what does the business need? and how can we best serve them, even when it comes to reporting and really pulling together the information. It's what's the best way to do this, and what's the most efficient way.
When you say efficient, is that through like automation steps, or is efficiency kind of on the person's end? So we did talk a little bit about AI automation, but is it kind of efficiency on your end, making things streamlined? There
are some things we are moving more towards, AI and a lot of the automated reporting, but there are a lot of things where you need to use manual labor and just manpower. So it's also being efficiency with your thoughts, and before acting, really sitting down and working with a team to really bounce ideas off of one another. So when you think about it, it's a lot easier when you're in the office to just, hey, like how many times, Jordan, would I just walk into your office and say, hey, you have a minute? Let's talk through this. But now, wait, is Jordan online? Is he read? Okay, he's in a meeting right now. Should I ping him? Is it a real meeting? Whereas before I could just walk by. So right now it's this new working environment, like being here with my dog chasing his tail. We just have to become accustomed to a new normal. So it's actually pinging or sending an email before calling. And it's a lot slower because you really have to make sure people are available, that you aren't disturbing them. And I feel like we're losing some of the humanity that we had in the office.
There are some challenges. Now, to reframe that and trying to challenge the team here, think about your successes. Like, where have you had your biggest successes during this current environment? And why do you think there's been some successes in certain areas?
My team, specifically the systems analytics guys, were really set up well for this. We are a very remote team in general. I sit in Atlanta. I've got one other person on my team in Atlanta. Ananta's in Mumbai. The people he's managing are actually in Bangalore. And so we were never actually all together anyways. And so our team transitioned relatively well to it. I think, some people are going a little stir crazy being at home constantly. I know Ananta is, and I know I've got some other people that, want to be in the office. They want to go have their coffee and tea time and are kind of missing out on that a little bit. But I think in general for us, we've been able to pretty much operate at the same level. I mean, I think people are working a little bit more because they don't have that commute that they did. And I know especially, in Atlanta as well, but in India especially, that commute is kind of crazy. And so I think people are taking the time to get a little bit more work done that maybe previously that was time spent like commuting back and forth. And partially also there's less to do. I mean, there's nothing, Anant can't go out, we can't go out and do anything. So, you're stuck at home, you get your work done and you want to accomplish something. So
yeah, and I agree with you, Jordan, that's pretty much the biggest benefit of this. It's really being able to be heads down. So while I can't go in and bug Jordan all the time, I'm also head down a lot more. I don't have to go as far to get a cup of coffee or a glass of water.
Oftentimes we're looking at products, we're looking at the features, but now are you looking more so towards like ROI, other things like that, more so than anything else?
Yeah, I think we're always looking for, ROI at the end of the day, right. Trying to save where we can and, increase our functionality. We were just able to do that with our ATS system. And so that was a big win for us. I just see some of the cutting probably in some more of the fun tools that you might be able to get out there, things that are a little more unique. Unfortunately, probably companies that are a little smaller and startup-y that have a unique product that probably would meet a need that, may now be postponed until 2021 before it can kind of get back in there, as opposed to, I think, they're still spent on some of the more critical systems and some of the more critical updates. Again, some of the integrations we're doing, we're still moving forward with. But I think some of the other, more unique tools and newer stuff, that's going to be what's going to probably take more of a hit this year.
It's like the proven entities are going to maintain, and probably because there's going to be that security, reliability that they look at, and they're more risk averse, right? You got less to spend. You're not willing to gamble. Lotta, to the business questions coming in on your side, how do the digital tools help you drive engagement across the business?
It's really using those proven tools. So we use Engagedly, clearly, one of the reasons we're here. That's how you know us. But when we think about some of our development cycles, really leveraging the tools that we currently have and working with our partners to further expand those, to ensure that they're user-friendly, and they're meeting all of our needs, and that all of our employees are able to access them very easily and so forth. So it's really just working with the business, seeing what their needs are, and then seeing how we can leverage our current tools. To Jordan's point, there have been some tools, some vendors I've been in touch with that are nice to have, that we're not going to see those contracts executed this year. You know, so it's more so about what do we have and how can we best leverage that and have that meet our needs. And it's forcing us to think more creatively and really dig deep and have conversations with people like yourself, and even our people analytics team, to say, okay, this is our issue. What do we have? Let's brainstorm and think creatively.
Ananth, what about you? What kind of tools help you engage across the business based on what you're doing?
Recently, before this COVID-19 situation, I remember there was a tool called Kahoot, which is a gaming quiz tool or something, which my people's solutions team were using whenever they implement any new any process or any change in the organization. They were actually using this tool to create a quiz, and then we all gathered in a quiz, and there were points and all. So that was one of the amazing tools that I felt, which has built a lot of engagement in, because we were actually waiting for that Friday to get into that quiz, so that it brings a score, and we also get a nice cash prizes. The first person got some close to like $100, I believe. So that tool was amazing. That was before the COVID-19 situation. Right now with this COVID-19 situation, I think the more of an video tool is going to be booming, like a video conferencing tool, or even the other video content tool, because we wouldn't be able to see the people henceforth. I with the current situation, no wonder if the company asks the employee to voluntarily work remotely indefinitely. So I think that's going to happen with the new social distancing norms in place.
What tools do you think will be most important to organizations to stay engaged with their employees, Delana, as well?
So I would say a really good survey tool, one that has the ability to be really flexible and place where they typically are, not to just get kind of longer engagement surveys, but also be able to pick up pulse surveys as well. Having a good tool that really communicates, something like an intranet, but doesn't necessarily need to be fully an intranet tool, but allows you to keep people engaged, let people know about exciting events that are coming up, or big successes that different teams have had. I think again, kind of sharing the news around is something that's going to be really critical, because again, we're not able to do it as much in the office. People are already getting bombarded by emails. So
murdered by emails. I love it. Delana, go ahead.
I also think one thing that we'll see more, and what organizations need to do, even with small teams, larger teams, it's actually having those recurring team meetings and have it be a bit less formal. So you have your coffee or whatever else, but really have that time to check in and to have people on video, so that you're interacting similar to the way that we are, so that it's still a conversation, you're interacting back and forth, and you can see people. So you truly have that engagement. And even if there's, a kid crying in the background, or, dogs jumping off the sofas, you still interact, and you understand what people are going through at home and how they are trying to produce as best as possible and as much as possible, but you're also aware of some of the challenges they may face. It's getting back to the humanity, which I think is big right now.
Delana, the humanity aspect there, that's so important. And I like how you said the informal part of it too. Like, it's not just like, hey, we got to accomplish this, and this in the meeting. Sometimes it's just like a safe space to talk. It's because we're also execution focused in these meetings. That habit of having that time each week with the team, and then things become routine, and then you actually appreciate that stuff. Like having that routine, you look forward to, like, oh, I can, just talk about some things that I'm thinking about.
Ironically, I think a lot of people, I've heard them say that they're getting to know their people, their colleagues and their employees much better these days, because you get to know they got a dog at home, and they've got, these two kids that are, at home crying or whatever it might be. And so they actually get to know people a little better, because people are working from home. They are dealing with all these, crazy distractions that normally may not be there. Even if you did work at home, normally your kids wouldn't be sitting there with you. There is some of the humanity being brought back in just through that itself.
Like, I'll know now when you go home what that looks like. And I might be a little less likely to be like, oh, hey, like I know the things you're juggling, rather than, we're in the office, we don't talk about what we do at home a lot.
One of my favorite things that happened, I was on a call and we weren't using video, and someone's child whispered, "Dad, I have to use the bathroom."
We know adoption is really critical. And then what is the biggest challenge you see us facing right now with that adoption we're trying to drive?
We always hear that, the previous system was always better. Though the new system is like super awesome, super intuitive, anything, but still changing that mindset of the users and then make them adopt to this new system, it's a bit challenging. Creating a curiosity to the people, the users well in advance would be a good idea to, make them really have that curiosity. What's going to be there in the system?
No system's perfect out there, regardless of what you get. And so I think that kind of goes back to what Anat's talking about. When you change systems, you gain a lot of good functionality that the team has really wanted, and they lose some of the benefits that they had maybe in the other system that hopefully the good outweighs the bad. You've got to kind of, again, go back to ROI, and does it really make sense for us to spend this kind of money to train people how to use Oracle's manager self-service or not? But to me, that's kind of the holy grail of, if I can stop sending people paper guides, or PDF versions of guides, or making videos for them, and they can actually just do it in the system. And anytime something changes in the system, I can just go and make a quick update on there, and they can, come into the tool, have a notification, and start learning about the new functionality. Then, that's going to make life so much easier.
Why are they resisting? Once you understand the resistance, then you can create that communication to overcome it. And then that's where all of the tools for adoption come in hand. Understanding the challenges, what the users are facing and so forth, so that we can get that higher adoption rate and a faster adoption rate. Because when we're transitioning, there's no choice. Whether you like greenhouse or not, you can resist if you like, but at some point you will adopt.
And when you're doing smaller, releases, so for instance, something like, Oracle with manager self-service. So Oracle's already out there. We released a piece of it. One thing that we do a lot is we'll the team that used to get all the requests, they now have an auto response that goes back explaining to people, here's exactly how you're going to be doing it. It's actually in their signature, I think, as well. So instead of, hey, this is where you go first, no, you need to go to the system first, and really pushing people there. As opposed to kind of trying to help them out, even though it may feel awkward, because that's what we used to do. We try to push them to go and do their own self-service. And then if they have problems, we can try to figure it out for them. But really try to be that second layer of help instead of the first layer.
Gotcha.
Right. And always offering that where you should go to find what you need. If I don't need it for, say, a few weeks or even months, then I wind up not knowing where to go.
There's times I go into the system and I'm like, oh yeah, where do I go again? And I'm in the systems all the time. And so if I'm going to have that thought process, you can only imagine what someone's going to have if they barely ever touch the system.
There's a really good point to think about when we're training people, right? Transference of training, reduce that lag time significantly, which then is more impactful on that content. Even if the content's not as strong, the application of the content's immediate. So then the learning happens a lot quicker.
Especially when it comes to kind of switching to the HR realm, whenever you're doing reviews, talent assessments, development reviews, having those tips at the forefront.
Yep.
That makes that tool much more effective. What other HR tools do you think you'll be using in the future?
So, obviously AI, chatbot is one that's huge for us. I got mixed feelings about the AI sourcing tool. I think it's really useful for the recruiters. It's something that obviously saves them a lot of time, and in general for a lot of our high volume roles, it does a really good job. I think that, the one negative coming from someone like me with my background, where I didn't go the traditional route, I wasn't really in HR beforehand, had you looked at use just the AI to, look at people for the role that I ended up filling, you wouldn't have selected me. Are we getting always the right people? And are we excluding people that maybe it would bring, some of that innovation that you're not normally going to get because you're just getting the same person over and over again? One of those, main hubs for self-service, right now, if I want to go and I want to do my engagement survey, I go to one place. If I want to go and do my performance review, I go to another place. If I want to go and change my direct reports, location, I have to go to another place. So having a single tool that kind of connects in with all your other tools.
And I will say that it is helpful that Engagedly does that for, our performance reviews and things of that nature, so that when If there is a fallout, it's minor because maybe something didn't happen on our end and an update didn't occur properly. But for the most part, we're not going in and updating hundreds of employees because it does have that direct feed.
Everything you hear from any software market now, APIs are a must. It's not it's not a question. It's not like, maybe. It's like you have to have it or it's not happening.
I've been always seeing we have multiple systems that includes a data management systems or applicant tracking system or anything, even performance management system. So one of the challenges that we feel is, these systems are not connected. So the transactions can be automated with the help of API. So any system, if you take now, data is playing a key role. So any system which has a reporting or which can gives a granular data level, even for an admin perspective, I would expect a system which can provide user usage related data, because to calculate the ROI, if you take if in any systems, calculating an ROI is becoming a little challenging, because if we are going to convert the existing employees to a system, then we can convert, we can easily calculate based on the cost that we pay for the other resource, like an employee, another resource, and then we can calculate and get that ROI. But when you just going to get something which is an add-on to the employee, then it's a little challenging for us to prove the ROI. So having the usage, it's going to be really helpful. So as William said, API is no longer a question; it's a must.
Yeah. What kinds of partnerships should organizations in your experience, or based on your experience, should be seeking out?
So we were using a system called Interviewed in the past, so which was an amazing assessment tool, which one of my other business unit owners.com were using, and then later Indeed acquired the company, and then we lost the feature which we actually wanted. A lot of the startup companies are offering amazing products, but one of the challenges that they have been acquired. If the product is amazing, they've been acquired. Even if you take the Ultimate Pro, I think, which is an awesome HCM tool, which has been recently, I saw one of the notice that Kronos has acquired Altipro. So when a company acquires a system, we are going to actually lose, because they're going to just either put that system along with their existing system and then make it as a single product, and the whole crux of that product we might lose.
Really good partnership with the client that they're working with is always a huge advantage to us. We work with vendors that obviously go all the way up to the size of Oracle, all the way down to companies that are really small, that maybe have a handful of people, and getting that better customer service, really having someone that's there, not just helping you to make the tool better, but to make whatever program you're launching better, is something that I think is really helpful. And Aaron, as you know, I think that we feel like we've gotten that out of Engagedly, and something that we've really enjoyed working with you guys because of that. Because we feel like you guys are partners for us, not only to make sure that Engagedly, the tool, is successful, but that whatever programs we're trying to implement are successful as well.
When I think about partnering, it really is that relationship. Can you continue to make us feel valued after you have the contract and our money, so that we continue to build and grow with you? So it's truly the relationship and helping to meet our needs and continuing to engage us.
Yeah, I think that goes along with the theme of kind of bringing humanity, not only to where you're working, but also to the tools, right? Because if you get a tool that you never hear from a customer success person, you're like, where do I go? That kind of thing. Like eventually you're just like, where am I going from here? What I'd like to close on is just some final thoughts from everybody. And then just kind of words of wisdom, anything like that. Ananth, if you have a solid spirit animal besides butterfly that you've thought of over this conversation, you can share now.
The first thing that came to mind was to always get dressed when you know you'll be on video.
Right.
I love it. It's awesome.
When you think about HR and technology, look at it holistically. You have to look at it from the people perspective, the processes, and the holistic impact. So thinking about the ROI, thinking about the problem that you're solving for, and even longer, think about it long term, not the short term. Also ensure that your key stakeholders are involved in all aspects, so that you're aware of any issues that may arise when it comes to implementation, and adoption and so forth. So making sure you have all the right people at the table.
For me, I think, data, is really king. And I know it's kind of funny coming from, the systems talk we were having today, but, part of the reason why that the people analytics team ended up rolling into me is because, we understand that, the top of the funnel is all these systems that we've put out there. And the bottom of the funnel, which, is really what we're trying to get to, is all the data and trying to really understand our workforce and be able to analyze them, get insights and trends, eventually be able to do predictive analysis on our workforce. And so at the end of the day, the systems are a means to the end, and the end is the data and what we do with that. So, beyond some of what we've talked about as far as, automation, some of the other things that it's doing that is nice, it's really how clean is that data, how accurate is it, and what can we do with that data?
That's awesome. And Will, I'll add my walk away is bring the humanity to data.
Oh,
I like it.
Aaron's about to write a book.
Right.
All right, and everyone wants to know, Ananth, other than a butterfly, what's that one animal you want to be? What's that spirit animal?
I would choose tiger. I don't know whether tiger is called as a spirit animal, but I would choose tiger.
Tiger, it's a spirit animal.
He wanted to be a tiger. He didn't get it, but he wanted to be a tiger. We'll give it to him. Let him have it. It's his.
Bat.
Yeah. No, I want to be one of these bats. This sounds cool. Just flying around at night, like 6 foot. I'm just imagining the 6 foot wide, like 8 foot tall bat flying around Mumbai.
Maybe Batman.
Yeah, I would never be there for that one.
I'm not going out. I'm not going out at night when I go to India. That's for sure. Everyone, great podcast. I mean, just so much value in it. This is a really awesome one. It also is one of our longer ones, but I think it's awesome. We just want to thank Jordan, Delana, and Ananth for your time. Really appreciate it. And it's just Aaron and I signing out. Aaron, partner, HR practitioner, all-star. Me, I'm just the director of sales and enablement. Just that guy, the MC. But I appreciate it. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.
You too.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you all. Stay safe.